when you're eating a meal, you don't expect yourself to eat everything all at once. You would have to eat it like piece by piece, one by one, or meal per meal. So data sizes do really change since information grows bigger every time. And so chunking strategy is a must, especially when you're working with data pipelines.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Human Managed YouTube channel. I'm Deborah, and today we have Ira, who's in charge of batch processing for our new product series, Asset Intelligence. And today we'll be talking to her about what she does for Asset Intel, specifically about batch processing and data pipelines. So, hi, Ira.
Hello.
Nice
Hi,
to
everyone.
nice to meet you. This is our first time having you on our podcast slash video series, and I'm really excited to have a chat with you. So, I'll just get straight into it. So, for someone who isn't technical, can you explain what the batch processing pipeline does and why it matters for Asset Intel?
Yeah. So for asset intel, batch processing pipeline is important because we deal with like massive firehouse of information from different data sources, like for example, CrowdStrike. So with this one, imagine having like different little puzzle pieces, and then you have to piece them all together to build a good puzzle picture. And so for the batch pipeline, that's what the aim is, to be able to piece together the different little puzzle pieces. So basically, just to describe the batch pipeline, there are three things that could best describe it. First would be it acts like a universal translator. So given that we get loads of data from different sources, we would have to be able to have something that will translate it to something that's more digestible by our clients, by the front end team, to actually build solutions from the like problems that we have with the data. So of course, we would have to translate it so that everyone that will work on that data will understand clearly what it's actually telling us. And then second, it's like a helper for heavy lifting. Since we're dealing with like loads of data, we would need something that will really help us with the processing of those large chunks of data. Since this is automated, we don't have to really go into the code every now and then to fix it. It can actually process a whole loads of data regardless of the size. And then thirdly, I guess it guarantees quality on our end also. So it's very important since we deliver solutions to our clients. And then we also get different data from different sources. So it's very important that every solution that we put out there ensures quality. So there, I think that's the summary of what the batch processing pipeline does in Asset Intel.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Because when I first heard like, oh, Ira does batch processing, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then now hearing it directly from you, it gives me a better understanding of what I actually do, and the analogy of the puzzle pieces is very useful because I think, like you said, like it needs to be in a common like language, right, that everyone
Yeah.
understand. So you mentioned quality and like when we deliver products to customers, we want it to be of a certain standard. Based on what you mentioned about quality and meeting certain standards for clients, that leads me to my next question, which is, what were the key requirements you were working with when building the data pipeline?
The key requirements, I would say that top of mind would be technical agility and deep data empathy. So technical agility, meaning since you're going to build a pipeline, you would have to have something that is powerful and flexible, and you have to have the knowledge to use that kind of tool. So for my case, I would say having a good knowledge on Python really helped, because since Python is actually a data platform that allows flexibility, so it allows you to handle different types of data. May it be JSON, may it be spreadsheets even, or like a Parquet file. You would be able to actually like get through with the data. So technical agility is one thing. And then also, I would say something that's more important would be your empathy on data or your domain knowledge. So yes, you can code, you can build pipelines, but if you don't understand the context behind the data that you're dealing with, then you will get loads of problem along the way. So it's very important to actually know how to do it and also understand why you're doing it.
So, now that you mentioned like the principles that guide it, so first you talked to us about what exactly is batch processing, and then give us a really great analogy, and then you moved on to telling us what are the principles that guide your work. Walk me through how data actually moves through the pipeline from when it comes in to when it's ready for users to see.
Yeah, so for the first part, of course, the arrival. So the data comes in to an S3 bucket. So from then on, we would have to ingest it and actually process it. So since it comes in a raw data, you would have to transform and in a way scrub it so that it would look like the asset intel data that we're familiar with.
Mm.
So in that sense, we also built a data schema check. So for this one, since we're having like data from different data sources, we will need something to be able to check those raw data if it actually is sending us the data that we're expected to have. So if it doesn't, it would cause a lot of problems downstream. And so we would need something that would check, or we would have to employ a gate for the data streaming so that when we send the data downstream, it wouldn't cause too much problems and we would be able to actually run the automation. So yeah, arrival, transformation, checks. And then last thing would be sending it to Lakehouse. So the storage or the data storage that we have. And when we send the data to Lakehouse, it is expected to have uh, or for it to be in its perfect state so that the front end team will be able to ingest it and will be able to come up with the solutions that will be able to that we will be able to send to our client.
When you say so that the front end team can come up with the solutions that you can send to clients, what exactly are these solutions?
Well, for me, I haven't really been involved that much with the front end's pipeline, but what I meant about the solution that is done by the front end team would be the solutions that they bring into the app. So basically, the charts, the figures, everything that can be seen from the app to showcase to the client.
I see. So, you kind of like touched on the mechanics of how your data pipeline works for asset intelligence. So, our product asset intelligence pulls data from multiple sources, right? And you mentioned that there's that transformation aspect, and then you have to receive it first, and then you transform it, and then it moves on. So, how do you approach handling data that comes in different formats or structures?
First, I would say expertise on the technological platform that you would have to use. So for me, for example, since I have a lot of data that I would need to process from different sources, that would mean I would have to deal with different languages, if you may interpret it that way.
Mm.
So I would have to be able to find a common denominator or maybe a universal language that would be able to connect all those data together and be able for me to understand to and also to be able to play with those data. So a versatile language would be helpful for me. And in that case, I would say Python would be my versatile language. So it helps me understand the data. It helps me look through the data. And then uh, from then on, I would be able to get dirty with the data. No matter what type of data it is, I would have to convert it into something that's more familiar with me and something that I can like be more confident in exploring. Second would be the exploration first mindset. So as a data scientist, I really do believe that data exploration is key to all the analysis that you would have to do. So you would have to first be more comfortable with the data. In order for you to be comfortable with the data, you have to really explore it for you to understand what's in it because there are a lot of hidden facets within the data, especially for this one. Since we deal with different sources, you would have to understand that some data may not look alike, but they actually tell the same thing. So, with that, you will really have to explore it so that you get a good knowledge of what it's telling you. And then, thirdly, and most important, I would say, is tapping into the human library. So, me, I would personally, I'm not very familiar with cybersecurity before I worked here. So when I was like exposed to the cybersecurity data, even though I know how to analyze the data, I know what to do with data, the context behind it, the business context behind it, sometimes I'm lost with that. And so it's very important for me to tap into my colleagues to ask for their expertise, especially on the cybersecurity context. So there, those three main things help me process different data from different sources.
My next question was actually going to be, what was the most technically challenging problem you had to solve, and how did you approach it? And I was wondering if managing all these different data sources was one of the challenges that you faced when dealing with this project.
Yeah, most definitely, for sure it was. But yeah, I guess being on the batch processing pipeline side, it's more of the technicality of it instead of really doing the solutions. in terms of like business solutions. So it's more of actually getting the data run on its own. So for me, the biggest challenging for this project specifically would be inheriting a very complex living system already. So basically, the asset intel batch processing pipeline is already running even before. It's just that we really have to further improve it with the schema gate check and some of the optimizations. But yeah, for me, the most challenging part is actually inheriting it because a coder has its own dialect and a code is a language of its own. So if you have to, well, for me, if I have to inherit it, I would have to understand the language of that coder as well. So for that purpose, it was hard for me to actually build something that would, but also make sure that it will run smoothly even after I add something into it or change some like codes into it. So I guess, yeah, just being, I guess, adopted to a living pipeline already was the biggest challenge. But what was helpful for me to overcome that problem would be, I guess, regular check-ins with the teammates and also be able to openly ask questions on the different like things about the pipeline. Yeah.
Thank you for that sharing. I actually really enjoyed listening to that, like hearing about the different challenges you faced and how you approached that. And in one of my earlier questions, you mentioned how you didn't really know much about cybersecurity before coming to human managed, and then now you mentioned having to collaborate with different people on
Yeah.
the team to work this out. So how did you collaborate with, say, GSOM or some of the other team in the Philippines or Singapore and the rest of the engineering team as you built this data pipeline?
What really helped me was like having an open like communication with them. So regular check-ins, since we're not really like working together physically, it would really be helpful to update them as much as you can, but also be mindful of everyone's workflows. So since we're all like working on different things here, it's very hard for me to really like bother people every now and then. So it's very important to be efficient with your like check-ins with your teammates and also be able to pull up resources as much as you can so that you don't have to trouble your teammates with like small things that you can find in your resources. So documentations really do help, and also being able to have a great onboarding processes on the projects really do help. But also yeah, I think the environment here is that people, even though they're like far from you, they're very open into like going into huddles to help you or to walk you through something or help you understand some things. So that for me was very helpful.
I think that also gives us insight into like the group dynamics, especially because a lot of us are in separate like countries and places. And
Yeah.
I think your point about being like efficient in your questions and efficient in your check-ins and also understanding how everybody else works is also very important because everybody has a different working style, everybody has a different flow.
Right.
Like if you don't really understand how they do things, then you kind of like intrude and it kind of like messes everything up, throws everybody off a little bit. So back to the more technical side of things, how did you think about scale? Also, I really wanted to ask this question because when we think about asset intelligence as a scalable product, and we think about it as managing assets for an entire organization, there's a lot of data, right? Whether it's in different forms or whatever. So how do you um manage that?
The question regarding the scale is actually a good question. It's a problem that we encounter every day, especially on the data processing side. Yeah, so since we're collecting data from different data platforms, we would expect different types of data each time or like different sizes of data each time. And then we have to make sure that our pipeline that transforms or takes care of those data would be somehow scale insensitive. So that when, for example, a data goes in our way that's like way bigger than we expected, we would have to have a resilient pipeline so that it won't break down or that it won't stop sending data downstream. And so for this one, it would really help to have a chunking strategy. I guess the chunking strategy is really something that is industry standard, I would say, for data science. Because, yeah, data is everywhere. So we would expect data to be bigger and bigger from here onwards. And so we would need to be able to like chunk, we would have to chunk data. So for example, when you're eating a meal, you don't expect yourself to eat everything all at once. You would have to eat it like piece by piece, one by one, or meal per meal. So data sizes do really change since information grows bigger every time. And so chunking strategy is a must, especially when you're working with data pipelines. And then second, I would say would be optimization. So since we're coding a lot, you would have to, well, coding something comes in like different ways. You can code one line in different ways. And so you would have to be able to choose something that's the optimized version of a code, especially if you're dealing with like big sizes of data, since it's just not storing data that eats up memory, but also computing something eats up memory. So make sure that the transformation and the computations that you have are optimized also. So there. Right.
Okay, I think it's very thorough and it really goes into how we can scale our product because right now we are starting small. We just kind of like launched it on, the marketplace and stuff. But in the future, definitely, and as organizations get bigger and they have more and more assets to manage, I think that's a very applicable. That's actually very important because if we cannot manage large amounts of data, like the whole system will just break down and then you just like
Correct.
right. So that kind of answers like all my questions that I have for you today. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I learned a lot about what you do at Human Manage, as well as the importance of like the data pipelines and the batch processing. I always heard about like data pipelines, but I never really knew what it actually was. And I really enjoyed our conversation today. So hope to have you on the video series again sometime soon. And that's all for now. Bye.
Yay. Bye.